So good afternoon. I'm with David Cummin from Arthur Online. Arthur is one of the UK's most noted prop tech companies in the UK, and David is the co-founder. I met David at least a couple of years ago, and David's regularly contributed both at my live events, and we also do catch up from time to time. So it's great to spend some time with you via what's called Zoom. David, thanks for spending some time this afternoon. I described you as co-founder of Arthur Online, but there's a lot more to you than that. And in fact, I'm discovering things now like you like art or fast cars, or maybe both.
No, well, thanks for having me on, Brendan. Very grateful, as always. Well, obviously I'm one of the founders of Arthur Online, and that's predominantly generated from the fact that ourselves, we're property managers and property owners, and we have a need for technology to manage our own property portfolio, and that's basically how it all started. My background's always been in software development, and basically, I think termed as a smart creative, which is somebody who can recognise the market, develop a product, and sell it into the market. And that's basically what I've been doing for my working career. And Arthur is probably the most exciting piece of software I think I've ever been involved with in terms of it came about because myself and Mark and Sean Beverley got a property portfolio. They're the other three partners of Arthur, and we needed some technology to manage it. And there was nothing around. And it all happened one night when we were at an event together, and we both had tenants who were having trouble, and we just stood up against the wall trying to sort out the tenants with texts and phone calls and this and that, and then trying to get the contractor, and it was Christmas Eve at their weddings, and that's the whole premise between how Arthur came about.
Yeah, David. So we've gone through a little bit of your story about the technology side and how Arthur, I almost said how David came about, but how Arthur came about. So who would Arthur be most useful for? Is it right to say it's mostly used for HMO landlords, or is it a bit more than that? Who's your key?
Very good question, man. Well, originally it was aimed at the self-managing landlord, so either professional or employed. So if you, as an individual, own some properties and you just wanted to manage those properties more effectively, Arthur would be the right tool for you. And the reason it's so effective is because it has an app for each of the groups. So the tenant has an app, you as a self-managing landlord has an app, and the contractor has an app, and the letting agent has an app, and so on. So the idea is, you see, if you're on the go or you're at work and there's an issue with a tenant, that whole thing can be managed very, very effectively. So it makes you more efficient. And the other thing it did, of course, which makes it appeal to that market, is it's a huge repository for documents and conversations and everything else. So when your tenant moves in, they download the app, you immediately have a great sort of arm's length relationship with your tenant, which is really what you want. And of course, everything is where it should be. And that relationship is established from day one. And of course, it's arm's length. So, and everything's audited. So every time there's an issue or a comment or a conversation, it goes through the app. So that's who it was aimed at originally. And I would say the users, property owners with sort of 7 or 8 properties would probably be the entry level into Arthur. If you've got 1 or 2, Arthur might not be for you because you can remember it, to be honest. But if you've got sort of upwards of 7 or 8, then Arthur starts becoming worthwhile. So our smallest user would be a private user, say with 6, 7, 8 properties. I mean, we have got people with 2 or 3 who use it. They mainly use it as a sort of storage thing more than anything else. And then at the other end, we found ourselves rapidly, obviously getting into the HMO market and getting into the student-let market. And the reason for that was because if you've got sharers in a flat, so let's say you've got an HMO with 6 units in it, and you know, the person in unit 1 says there's a problem with the kitchen or there's a problem with the washing machine or something, and you've got to get the plumber out, But the great thing about Arthur is it can keep everyone in sort of unit 2, 3, 4, and 5 informed as well. So you don't get this situation where there's a disconnect or miscommunication between the person who reported it and everyone else. So suddenly we found ourselves really going well in the HMO market, and of course in the student rent market, because you get 6 or 7 students renting a flat, and you can only begin to imagine the sorts of things you want for communication there. So that worked really, really well, and we were very happy with that.
David?
Then we found ourselves actually moving in. Have I lost you?
No, you haven't lost me there, but you've intrigued me. You mentioned the student market. So one thing which comes up, and sorry to interrupt you, David, in your flow.
Yeah, go for it, man.
So there's apps like Splittable and other apps which help student tenants as such. Does your software integrate with any of these Splittable type apps?
We integrate with apps, or we integrate with other systems that are more aligned to our core business. So at the moment, that's a very, very good point. So at the moment, the main objective of Arthur in relation to a tenant, for example, is the ability to communicate and have documents. So we don't, at that stage, really need to integrate with those sorts of apps. However, for example, we are doing some work with a company called VinCard, who do door access systems. So you could have a situation where you use your app to open your door. So imagine you're taking a tenancy in a purpose-built residential building, where you just turn up and you're going to be renting room 613 for 6 months. And you can just turn up, hold your phone to the door, and it'll let you in. So in that respect, we integrate it. And then we're sort of looking at the Zooplas, the Right Moves, and of course the big thing we integrate with is Xero, which is the accounting software at the back end. And also we sort of integrate with the booking systems, where people want to book for 3 or 4 days, and what's the stock availability. So and DocuSign. So we're going to be integrating with the ones that really are on our core roadmap at the moment. Yeah, that's basically that's our core development plan.
The ones which are 3 or 4 days, I think you said, are short term, they're not currently in your system. Is that right? You can't do that through your.
Well, no. You can put short lets into Arthur, because whether you're running a long let or a short let, the process is exactly the same. The only difference between a short let and a long let is you need a lot less information for a short let, and you need to get that data in quickly. You don't need so much documentation. So although Arthur will handle a short let, if it takes 2 or 3 minutes to enter tenancy information into Arthur, whereas in a short let, all you really need is the start date, the end date, or the number of nights. It works out the rent, it takes the money, and off you go. But what's happening, you see, is our client portfolios, our clients have got a combination of stock. So, we get clients now, I'd say probably 30% of our clients will have a combination of stock. They'll have HMOs, they'll have long lets, and a lot of them also have short lets. So we've got to make sure that Arthur can work across, and of course they've got commercial. And funny enough, we've got one that I didn't even know we had, that until they started asking some interesting support questions, where it's farms and things like tractors and garages and barns and we had to hold information about how big a barn is and how high it is, and so you can get a tractor in it and all that sort of stuff. So short lets is just another. I wouldn't say just. The short let market is a big market. It's rapidly coming up. So for us, integrating with a booking system like Bookings.com or Airbnb, that would be our core focus.
At the moment, does it integrate with those 2 platforms? David?
Well, it's not released. So we're quarter one next year. So we're talking between January and March. We're intending to have Arthur linking to some of the big bookings platforms, yes, and also some of the big student platforms as well.
It is intriguing, and I'm sure I'm going to catch up with you fairly soon. At possibly next week. Next week is for the listeners who are listening to this in the future, i.e., months ahead. Next week is with reference to my Central London evening property meet, which is on the 28th of this month. It's flown by, September. And so it's focus on service accommodation. And, David hopefully will be there that night. So as I say, I was intrigued by the other company you mentioned, which, and I'm sure we can discuss this at a future date, which has got the keypad system you mentioned, the door entry system. So, yeah, sure. So, how have you managed to create those relationships with those very successful organizations?
Two reasons. Firstly, we get approached by customers who are dealing with large projects, and they say, look, we want to use Arthur as part of a bigger offering. So, some of the big private rental sector companies who specialize in blocks of flats, for example, will say, look, we need to be able to manage all of our issues, and Arthur's very good at that. So what happens is Arthur's very modular. It has on it something called an API, which basically means you can connect it to other systems. So we would have, in this particular scenario, we've got people who want to use the functionality of Arthur, but don't necessarily want to use Arthur's app. They want to incorporate it into their own app. So that's one way you get involved. Look, we're partnering up with A, B, and C. So we do it. The other thing is, in a previous life, I used to do a lot of work with hotels in my days of health and fitness and leisure and spas, and we used to integrate with all the hotel management systems. And the joke of it is, the short let market isn't that dissimilar to the hotel market. So all of my relationships with the big hotel management systems and access control systems, of course, are still there. So you can bring them in, which is a stroke of luck.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's great.
So we know how to.
So, David, there's lots of platforms for people out there. What makes yours different to other platforms? Why go for Arthur Online? I don't want to mention any other names as such, but why go for yours?
Okay, at the moment, okay, and I can say this with conviction. At the moment, we are the only platform, and I mean that, and I can say that with true conviction, that actually manages all of the aspects of property management in this sector. Now, I'm not saying it's going to be like that forever, because obviously people are coming up. But we are the only one that has an app, mobile app for every user group. So if a tenant raises an issue and a contractor turns up and fixes that issue automatically, we are the only people that handle that workflow from start to end. You've got Fixflow who can handle things like the contractor part. You've got other apps that can handle the tenant logging an issue. But there's nothing where a tenant can log an issue and literally they press send and the contractor's notified and they turn up and deal with it. In addition, so that's workflow, and I do know we do that better than anyone else at the moment. And I say at the moment because this is a cutthroat market and things change. The other thing is, I think we're the only UK company at the moment that integrates with Xero, which is a fabulous piece of accounting software. Again, that's going to change over time. So I think from an administrative point of view and an accounting point of view, we're there. And I think from a workflow point of view, we're there. So I do know functionality-wise, there's nothing that comes close at the moment, but don't get me wrong, Brenton. I'm looking over my shoulder every second of the day. And I'm sure there are companies out there that do certain elements of what we do, probably possibly better than we do it. But when you want everything end to end, at the moment we're the only people who do it. So I think we offer a very good, versatile service. That if you are stuck on the M4 on a Friday night, or you are on holiday and you have a problem with a tenancy, or there's something you've got to deal with, I think we're probably the only one where every single piece of information you need to action something on the tenancy is available to you in the palm of your hand.
Hey, David.
I know that, actually. I'm droning on, but I know that because we use it on our own property portfolio.
Sure. I did promise to you that it would be 15 minutes. So have you got some more time just to go through some of the other key questions?
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah. Okay.
If you man anything.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm.
So the other key question, so we've covered about property software. Right? There was a question about, do you use any property software yourself? But of course you use software. You use Zero, for example, I'm sure. But do you use any other property software yourself, David?
No,
No. Everything
we use
you want in
Arthur.
Alpha.
We have 70 units of our own.
So say that again, David, because the communication lost out there. You have.
Yeah. And the thing is, until Arthur, we use Arthur to manage our own to manage our own property portfolio. And if there were functions that we needed to manage it that weren't in Arthur, we put them in. Having said all that, we knew what we needed from day one. But no, we use Arthur and Zero for everything, absolutely everything. There is no other software. So, and I say when we started, 95% of our time was spent managing our properties, and 5% was spent, on Arthur. And now 95% or 98% of my time is spent on Arthur, and all of the properties we manage are managed by Arthur. So no, I'm absolutely, we practice what we preach.
Sure. So we've the sweet spot, or the starting entry more than the sweet spot, is 8 units, ideally. What type of pricing, or is that tricky to say?
No, I don't think pricing is a problem. Arthur starts at, I think, £9 a month. So I don't think £9 a month is an issue.
Sure.
And then, our typical Arthur probably pays, our average Arthur user has about 45 properties. We've got people with a few, and then we've got people with hundreds, but 45, 50 properties is about the average size. I think our lowest has got 1 or 2, and they, as I say, they use Arthur because it's a great repository of data with contracts and everything else. No, I don't think it's that. I think if you've got 2 or 3 properties, you'll probably use the app once or twice a month.
Sure.
By the time you've used it and you've every now and then you're going to forget how to use it because you're not using it enough. That's all. I don't think it's a price issue.
Looking at going forward, in terms of, by the way, David, how do people get hold of yourself or Arthur? If they are, is there a 30-day free trial or anything like that?
Yeah, we have a 30-day free trial, and if you go to www.arthuronline, that's all one word, ARTHUR online.co.uk, you can register straight away on the front page, get a 30-day free trial, and with and it's the full application, it's full support, it's everything you would do. Obviously, our objective is to get you on board as quickly as we can. So you can also sign up for a tutorial on the homepage of the website. There's a big orange button that says "Have a tutorial." So even if you sign up for a 30-day free trial and you want a tutorial, we are there. We're there waiting.
Sure. Look, we've looked at where you expect Arthur Online to be in 6 months' time, i.e., with regard to more focus on short-term accommodation. Looking a little bit further in the future, and I don't want you to give any trade secrets away, where do you see yourself in 5 years' time?
Well, we do have a 5-year plan. Funny enough, we were talking about it this afternoon. So there are sort of a number of areas you look at with Arthur. So clearly there's the existing HMO market, the private rental sector. Now the private rental sector, they reckon by 2025, 1 in 4 properties in the UK will be rented. I think by 2025, we're expecting 7.2 million rented properties in the UK. So clearly we want a chunk of that. There's the short-let market. Clearly we want a chunk of that. There's the student market. And then there's the housing association market, which we're doing work on. Now we're picking up housing associations, which is great. But of course, there are then government housing associations, which are 40, 50,000 units at a time. So obviously we're going sort of more long-term for those. But of course, the other thing is when we did a heat map of Arthur, if you look on the website, we've actually got Arthur already in 26 countries, which I never ever expected in a million years. So the other thing to do is to go sideways. So we've got Arthur in, I think we've got 41 international clients. There's something like 28,000 users, and a big chunk of them are abroad. So taking the private rental sector marketplace and going sideways into Europe and other English-speaking countries is obviously on our agenda as well. So we can take what we've got and go internationally, and then of course vertically we're going to short-let commercial. We're also looking at doing block management as well, because Arthur lends itself to all those things.
David, I'm really keen to continue I'm really keen to continue this conversation. I think the way we're going to do it, though, is I'm sure you're going to be speaking at some point again at one of my meets, partly because your software changes and evolves, and what it was 1 or 2 years ago is different to how it is now. So I would say if you want to see David live, come along to one of my meets. After the video, there'll be a link to my meets on the description. Have a look at meetup.com/Central London Property Network. That details my Central London property meets. I've got events in Wandsworth as well. But the best place to start is with meetup.com/Central London Property Network. David, I want to say huge thanks for your time this afternoon. I want to quickly ask you, is there anything else you want to add? We've told people how to get on to Arthur Online. It's arthuronline.co.uk, is that correct? Have I given the right domain?
Quick summary, www.arthuronline.co.uk. That's the address you want to get to. And yes, of course, please try it out. And if you need any assistance, then just register for one of the tutorials. And I think that's about it. But yes, we're constantly changing it. We're on a massive, not changing it, that's wrong. We're constantly evolving. We're constantly adding the functionality that we want to get to. There's so much to do. There's so much to do, and it's exciting.
Definitely, David. I could spend all day here, but I'm going to shoot off for the moment. But I'm sure I'm going to see you very soon at one of my property morning or one of my property evening meetings. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks for joining me.
Brendan. Thanks very much indeed.
Oh, thank you.
See you at one of the events.
Bye-bye.